Welcome, everybody, to the Rogue Virtual Fall Training Kickoff. Excited to have everybody joining. I see we've got attendees popping in over on the right, and we've got a host of guests and panelists who will be joining us throughout our discussion today. I'm excited about this. This is going to be a one-of-a-kind kickoff, let's hope. And certainly something we've never done before, but I think we've pieced together a fun agenda. I've really got two things I want to try to do today with you all. One is have a little fun and just, be a fun community together. And secondly, give you some information that will hopefully inspire you for that next phase of training. So that's what we're here to do. You may not get all of your questions answered. That's not really the purpose, but we'll continue to feed you information through the coming days via your coaches. Well, I just cut out. All right, am I back? I'm back.
Yeah, you're back.
I'm back. I don't know what happened there. All right, so we will continue to feed you information over the coming days, but today is just about, again, having some fun, passing on some information, giving some fun, excitement, and news about what we'll be doing in the early parts of fall training. We've got this conversation divided up into a few different segments. We're going to start with a little history, but first I just want to welcome some different groups that we have. First of all, our panelists, everybody wave. They're Rogue special guests, some former Rogue members or coaches or athletes, and also some special guests that we'll introduce as we go. Also want to welcome in the participant group, all of our athletes joining from here in Austin where I sit today. We've also got our Dallas runners here and our New York runners and a host of podcasts and virtual athletes. And then, of course, I know a host of non-members who might be just here to check this crazy thing called Rogue out for the first time. So welcome, all of you. Well, there you go. Leave it to technology. I'm back again. All right, so we're going to start with just a little bit of background on Rogue. And I've got a couple of guests to help me celebrate this part of our discussion. Ruth and Carolyn, original Rogue founders, are here. You guys give me a wave.
Here we are.
It happens to be Carolyn's birthday, everybody, so please send her some love. Happy birthday, Carolyn.
Thank you.
She's going to have her first alcoholic beverage tonight in her life, and that's a big, exciting development for her. We've also, unfortunately, we were going to have Bob Wallace on, Run On founder. He founded Run On back in 1995, but he unfortunately couldn't make it. He's feeling a little under the weather these days, and so he sends his love from Dallas and definitely sends all of his positive vibes out to especially our Dallas community members. But we wanted to start with just a little background on Rogue. We're a business that started in 2004. I think we're going to touch all sort of parts of our community tonight with some past members. But what this community has really been about is embodied in an updated mission statement that we just released this year, which is that we want to connect, challenge, and inspire each other to be better humans through running. And those three words mean a lot to me as not only a member of this community, but as a coach. It's about connection. It's about connecting with each other and being a part of something bigger than just ourselves. It's about challenge and doing perhaps some difficult and hard work in order to be a better version of yourself. And it's about inspiration and leaning on that from each other, as well as from those that interact with our community to try to dream big and go and smash those goals. So that's what we're about. We're going to go now bring Ruth England into the conversation. She is a definite Rogue OG, one of the original founders. Also, fun fact, used to train dolphins and sea lions and has probably the most interesting resume of anybody I've ever met. How are you doing today, Ruth?
I'm doing good. Can you guys hear me okay?
We can hear you.
Awesome. Yep. I'm excited to be here. I'm also excited to see some friends in the picture, some other OGs in other ways. So it's kind of cool to be here today.
One of the things we were talking about earlier in a conversation, Ruth, was if you think back to 2004 when Rogue suddenly was born out of the bowels of Runtex University. If you think back to that time and ask yourself why we've come this far, why has our community continued to grow for 15 years? And I think that's also embodied in the history of Run On as well, the things that we were talking about. So
anyone want to guess at the question?
what do you think we can point to as one of the things, at least, that built us to where we are today?
Well, I think we have done an amazing job of creating community, which I think you already mentioned a little bit, but that's been the mission of the business, was to create community through the lifestyle of running. And then I think that we have done an amazing job, I know, by looking at the people sitting on this panel that are associated in some way with Rogue, that we've done an excellent job finding people who are passionate and authentic in running and changing lives. And that has really made Rogue what it is today. I mean, there's been so many, I mean, it's just, I almost have to giggle and laugh because I'm like, oh my God, look at Scott, look at Darren. Oh my gosh, they're all grown up now. I mean, that sounds stupid because they weren't that little when they came to Rogue, but they're great examples of two guys who brought their passion, their authenticity. And yeah, they were fast too, but really it was more about who they were and what they embodied than it was what pace they ran on the trail. And I feel like we've managed to, because it's such a inviting community and always has been, managed to bring in people like that. I mean, now we have Mitch from Dallas. I mean, would have never expected, you know, we'd move to Dallas and pick up a guy like Mitch, who really is the same thing. He embodies what Rogue is, which is a passionate people who care about others. And I think that's why we're still around 15 years later.
Think about all those times that we expanded, moved to a new location, brought in a new person, and we always had a lot of worry about whether or not we'd be able to connect with coaches that had the passion that we were looking for. But fortunately, we always found those people, and we continue to find them. They often come to us. Some of them are represented here. Some of them are behind me on my Zoom background here. And they're not just in Austin anymore, which is fun. They're in Dallas. They're in New York. And we also have virtual coaches that actually live in other places as well. So it's cool to be a part of a group of people, and especially as coaches that are heartbeat of our community that care so much. I think a word that we picked up really from our Dallas community is this idea of family, that Rogue is not just about running, and even the word community sometimes I think isn't enough to really represent what this place is all about. It's really about family. And I always like to say there are no masks when it's 5:30 in the morning and 80 degrees and you got to go run 20 miles in 85% humidity. And that's one of the things that makes this place special. So Ruth, talk a little bit about that idea of family.
You know, I think that's sort of the approach we took to the training, as well as to the people that we looked for to help us build the community, was people who you know, really, again, had a passion for other people, who cared not just like, oh, you got your 5 miles in, but how did the 5 miles feel? Or even when we had the retail store or stores, people who were like, hey, how did that shoe actually work for you? And if it didn't work, then we brought it back. I mean, to me, I feel like it's also, again, with, you know, the OFO sandals. I mean, we care that your feet feel good after you run. And I don't know how many times I've gone around and been like, oh, these are the best sandals because they work for me. Do they work for you? So I think it's that family. Like, I want to make sure, you know, my personal family, as well as the family of Rogue, is getting the best service, the best hints, the best ideas. And so I think we have been able to find people who believe that same thing, that we want everyone to be successful, no matter whether, you know, they're a 10-hour marathoner or a 2-hour half marathoner, whatever their pace. We just want them to embrace the culture and the lifestyle.
One thing I love about it too is that everybody who comes into the community, we always say once a Rogue, always a Rogue. And whether you're with us not now or not, when you jump back in, like on today's call, seeing some of these old faces, it's fun to just reflect on the fingerprints that everybody has left on the community through the years. I think about the antics of Scotty and Darren back in the day and some of the raffler events that we used to put on. And for those veterans, you might know what I'm talking about. But the same is true in our Run On community in Dallas there, where you have people that may come and go, but always leave their fingerprints. Let's talk about training for a second, Ruth. One of the original concepts around founding Rogue was this idea that everybody was worthy of training with the same principles that you might train with if you were an elite athlete. Everybody could have access to those principles. So when you think about that part of the equation, what would you tell people?
Well, I think it sometimes sounds scary and made us seem like we were elite driven and elite focused. But I think we truly believe that anyone could do any type of workout, could do the same basic workout schedule as an elite athlete or a UT athlete, or any college athlete, I should say, because UT isn't the only college. I've started to learn. Oh, yep, Darren's making sure I know. And, that we've made sure that we just believe that everyone could do it, given enough time. I mean, the body can adapt to any load, to any pace, not any pace, but their best pace, if we just give it time to adapt to that. And so we sort of stuck it out there and believed in it. And we've seen a lot of success because of that basic philosophy. Doesn't mean we haven't changed it up a little bit. And it doesn't mean that some of those 100-mile weeks were maybe not the best idea always, but it certainly was damn fun to try that.
You will be challenged, and sometimes you will doubt whether or not you can do what we give you. But if you try it and stick with it, even when you fail sometimes, you will get better and stronger because of it. And that's part of the magic. Let's shift gears now. I want to talk a little bit about fall training, use that as a segue. So I'm going to bring in my next guest for this conversation. We've got Jed Cornforth. We've got Scott Abbott from our fall destination races of choice. We'll get to them in a second. We've also got Jen Harney, who is one of our main curriculum directors and curriculum writers here at Rogue in Austin, who's helped develop this fall curriculum. It has to be said that obviously there's a lot of uncertainty right now, and we'll talk about that with these two race directors. And we don't know what's going to happen for fall races, but one thing I can tell you is that no matter what happens with those races, no matter whether or not we can go line up, doing the work to prepare for those events will be beneficial for you in the long term. So we are gearing up with a program that will operate like we're doing those races, because we can't know exactly what will happen yet. And then we'll obviously modify and pivot as we learn new things. I want to bring Scott Abbott into the conversation. Scott is the race director of the California International Marathon. He is one of the best in the business in terms of race directing and putting on a good race. You've been a race that we've been to. We took 200 people there a couple of years ago, and we've sent people every year. We've got another big group coming this year. If you just had to tell that person who might not know much about CIM, what would you tell them?
Yeah, well, thanks first of all for having me, Chris, yeah, Rogue is a huge part of the CIM story the last few years. CIM's, regarded as one of the top performance races in the country. It's a great opportunity and that's one of the reasons why I think it's been such a good fit for the Rogue group. I heard you talking about 100-mile weeks there. That freaked me out. I started sweating, but that's kind of in line with the serious program that you guys run. Really generates trainees that are ready to run from a performance focus, and our event really aligns with that. We're the #1 Boston qualifying marathon in the country, and in the last quadrennium we were the top Olympic trials qualifying marathon in the country, and Rogue was a big part of that story over the last 3 or 4 years. You guys send a big group out here. You guys train your participants so well. They come so prepared and they come ready to race, and that's really what CIM is all about. It's truly a runner's race. I don't necessarily think it's the fastest course in the country, and that maybe is a misnomer. Sometimes people think it's a very, very fast course. What it is a fast race because it brings together a lot of really performance-oriented, achievement-oriented runners, and then we try to really facilitate a race that can help facilitate those achievements that you guys are shooting for. So that's really kind of the DNA of our event, and we love that you guys come out every year, and we're stoked to have you. And I think you did touch on a point that I know there's a lot of uncertainty this fall, but you guys should know that we are planning out here in California. We're all systems go. Our path forward right now is forward, and so we look forward to hopefully having you guys toe the line with us this fall.
Two keywords there, net downhill, right, Scott?
Yeah, that's true. That's something that draws a lot of people to our event. It's a net downhill of 390 feet. But to be honest with you, though, those people on the call that have run the race before, I'm sure that if you come out here thinking it's just a screaming downhill race, you're going to be a little bit blindsided. It really is more of a rolling hills through the first half of the race. And so you guys training out there in Austin, I know you guys have a lot of great, opportunities to run hills out there and really prepare for that kind of more of that rolling hills through the first half. And then really where you get the bang for your buck is in the second half is really flat to a net downhill finish. And that really, so when you're training and preparing race wise, it's really preparing to kind of downshift, kind of roll with the punches through that first half, and then really be able to race the second half of the race. And if you can race the second half of the race at CIM, some really great things can happen. We've seen people run.
You hit mute.
Yeah.
You hit mute there, Scott, by accident.
Sorry.
All good. Yes, it's fast at the end. I would say also impeccably run from an organization standpoint. I know you guys have put out a worry-free guarantee for those that are concerned about potentially signing up for a race in the fall. What is that all about?
Yeah, really what that is just we recognize there's uncertainty, and believe me, the uncertainty in your world, we recognize participants out there have some anxieties. We have anxieties as well. Right now, and we're just trying to provide a platform where we can all just move forward, sign up for the race without worry about whether it's going to happen. That allows us to kind of plan the event as if it's going to happen. It keeps my staff working. It allows them to continue to put on that event. And the way that worry-free works is if the event isn't run in December, you have got a voucher to come back and run CIM for the next 3 years, all the way up until 2023. And so that really provides you that worry-free. And we know that, you guys are loyal, passionate runners there at Rogue. And if you're not able to run it this year, we'll have you back one year between now and 2023.
I love it. And that race is on December 6th for those who are marking their calendars. Jed, I want to bring you into the conversation. You are the race director for the Indy Monumental Marathon and Half Marathon there in Indianapolis. Another amazingly run event. We've sent runners there before. Another destination race for our runners. Give a little sales pitch on the Indy Monumental race.
I think my dog heard you address me. She jumped on the bed there. But, we're sort of like CIM in the sense that we're a flat, fast course. People really come here to run fast. We've really focused in the last few years on bringing a number of competitive folks to town, and that was evidenced by the Olympic trials qualifier success we had last fall, and really just for being a relatively young event. This is our 13th year. We really tried to focus on top quality competition and experiences. And, whether that means kind of like the ease of use, really getting around downtown, that total beginning to end experience is something we really pride ourselves on. And, certainly a lot of uncertainty this year. But like Scott, we're working hard to plan every possible contingency around the race and considering all mitigation factors and safety and, health and safety is our paramount, right? Without health and safety, our events don't mean anything. So I think, and in a year like this, we're fortunate given the timing of the calendar that we're kind of far enough out that we have a great ability to make some awesome, concise plans, and we're excited to move forward.
Having been a race director, I know how hard it is. In a normal world, when everything's working as it should, I can't imagine what you've been going through and thinking through all the different scenarios. Can you just give us a little picture of that?
Yeah, absolutely. That's actually a perfect question. So I've really kind of narrowed it down into kind of a decision funnel for us, right? You've got the first layer of that funnel is really going to be government regulated. Are we going to be physically able to host the event, whether that's federal, state or local government, or is it going to be deemed safe by them? That's the first layer of the funnel. Second layer really is is the medical personnel, is the medical support adequate? Can they handle the influx of a large event like this? And then the third layer of the funnel really is, you know, a large event like a marathon. We depend on about 2,600 race day volunteers. Can we adequately prepare them and get them to the comfort level that they need to be able to help us put on a great race? And then finally, the final piece of that funnel really is, do participants feel comfortable? Do they feel safe? Have we put in the right mitigation measures so that we're, do we have effectively a contactless packet pickup, right? Do we have, what does the post-race event party look like? Things like that. So we're really taking that sort of funnel approach with our preparations and considering lots of different options for how, you know, rethinking how the expo works. Do we have an expo? Things like that. So at this point, we're, you know, we're really feeling a lot better than we were 8 weeks ago when this all came on suddenly. And like I mentioned earlier, we happen to be fortunate that we're in the latter part of the calendar year. So we've got a little bit extra time to prepare.
Well, fingers crossed for both of you. That Indy race is November 7th. We'll be sending athletes to both races. So if you're watching and want to check out one or the other, then definitely sign up, because regardless, as they said, we'll figure out whether those races happen or not. We'll figure something out, and we're certainly training as if they're happening. We've also got rogue discount codes for both of those races. Thank you, Scott and Jed. And so we'll make sure you get all of those details so you can sign up and get that rogue code. I want to bring Jen Harney into the conversation because you've been tasked with some help from all of us with developing schedules to gear up not only for those two races, but also for all races in the fall, starting as early as September with potentially a Boston Marathon. So talk a little bit about that process, first of all, and then tell us what people can expect going into this fall season of training.
Yeah, so this training cycle is a little bit different since it starts so early in September, going all the way through December, which is a very long schedule. So we did a couple different things. We have 2 different schedules for early fall races, so September and October, and then we have another schedule that's for late fall races, so for the November and December races. And then we got a little creative with our December races. So we, instead of having like what we normally do is a base phase, and then we do a strength phase, and then we do a race specific phase, which includes the taper. For December, we added, or they start with a speed block first, and then they go into a build phase, and then they go into the strength and race specific. Since it's a longer schedule, we didn't want people to get burnt out or just get injured or overtrained or anything like that. So that was one of the changes that we had to make. Same thing with like the early September race schedule, we had to cut out the base phase, and so they go right into the strength phase. And then one of the new things that we added, so we added new workouts, which is really exciting, and I always love that part. And so this season we're addressing late race fatigue. So we added in a lot more progression workouts, a lot more progression long run workouts as well, to help our runners deal with the late race fatigue that most of us deal with, and to also practice patience. I like to say always be practicing. So a lot of our workouts and a lot of our long runs are about practicing what you're going to experience in the race. So.
And some hills. I know that
yes.
I know our Dallas community, Mitch was given a two big thumbs up to the hill workouts in this cycle. So those in Dallas can thank Mitch for that part of it. But explain why more hills this time around.
Well, we started with the process that we're training for Boston. And so with Boston training, we have to train on a lot of hills. So that was where it kind of started. And then we just kept them going because hills make you stronger. And I personally, as a coach, like hills because a lot of times my runners are attached to their watch. And so with hills, it's more about the effort and then like modulating your effort over the hill as opposed to being stuck to the watch and the pace that the watch says. And so for races like CIM, which I know it's an undulating course the first half, you have to be okay with just feeling the hills out and not overextending yourself just because your watch says so.
Love it. Love hills personally. Can we get some logistics? Obviously, we'll be getting our programming information to everybody. They'll have, as normal, the day-by-day schedules that we always produce. Give those listening just a little bit on how they'll get access to their programs and what they need to look for and how those might be structured.
Yeah, so the schedules are already posted on our website for members. So you can already go to the website and get the schedules. So we have the fall half, we have the fall full, and then we have also a summer base speed phase that's about 12 to 15 weeks long. And so you can get those already on our website. We also, I'm trying to think through, sorry, I'm a little, yeah, that's basically, you can get it on the website. Also, your coaches will be able to email it out to you. Oh, one last thing. Sorry, Chris, you know, I'm all over the place usually.
All good.
So one of the things we also added, which is really cool, is that on your daily schedule, so you have your long run schedule, and then you have your workouts, and then you have like a weekday schedule, and that has each day what to do. At the end of that, we added your total miles. So there's an option for you to pick low mileage, medium mileage, or high mileage, and then you can figure out what's best for you with your coach.
Choose your own adventure, as always, here at Rogue. Rigorous, but well within your ability to customize for what's right for you. As we wrap this segment, I wanted to thank Jed, thank Scott for joining and for doing all that you guys do in our community. So give thumbs up and claps from our panel for those two, because I can't imagine what it's like to be a race director right now. And regardless of what happens, we're sending love your way, and we'll continue to contribute to what you guys are doing, because it's good stuff. So thank you so much, guys. And thank you, Jen, for all that you do to help create the matrices that are our schedules, with basically customized plans for all weekends. And Brent also gets an assist on that. So thanks to our team for building those. Now I want to introduce quickly a former person who used to do that in our community, Jeff Knight. Jeff, how are you doing today, sir? You're going to have to unmute.
I could be better. I'm back with a group of people that I love being with and talking to, and it's like I was here just the other day.
Well, you look exactly the same, except for maybe some facial hair. Is that what I'm seeing there on your upper lip?
Well, it's been a long 8 weeks, Chris. That's all I can say.
Jeff used to be our training director and what used to be responsible for what Jen was doing, writing these matrices. As you think back on that, before we talk about what's next with you, Jeff, what do you remember in creating those programs?
What I remembered was, we talked about, like you were talking about at the beginning, how we had these principles of giving, elite level training, and just sort of like all the stress and worry of going, are we giving everybody what they want while also maintaining community? Because if it was too much one-off training, then nobody could train together. And so it's just this, like, you were always walking this razor's edge of just giving every community member what they needed to excel and be the best they could, while also, being able to train together and build that community and build off of each other. So I remember that stress of hoping I was doing that balance. So I'm really glad I don't have that stress anymore, but I also miss it at the same time.
Well, we miss you for sure. You're now at Under Armour. That's where you're hanging out these days, working in their digital office, probably your home office now, but their digital arm here in Austin. We have you here because you're now a part of Under Armour, which is going to be a sponsor of what we're talking about next, which is a fun way. We're going to be kicking off fall training with a fun virtual challenge, which we'll do whether we have to do it all virtually or hopefully where we can do some of it as a community together. But we're launching something that we're going to call the Front Door 5K Series. Front Door 5K Series, it's for members and non-members. We'll explain a little bit of those details here in this next segment. But Jeff, one of the reasons why you guys are here with your partner in crime, James Keith, there is because you're going to be one of the sponsors, providing some prizes for the event and really helping us think about bringing that performance element a little bit, which Under Armour emphasizes. And obviously what you're in charge of is that digital integration of performance with the actual products. So give us a little bit on what you're doing at Under Armour.
Yeah, it's a good question. The great thing to me that's been a carryover from Under Armour or from Rogue to Under Armour is that sense of connectedness. Under Armour, as many people, maybe know or don't know, is, we've been involved with the Austin community in a pretty serious way in the last couple years. And especially as it pertains to Austin Marathon, Half Marathon, 3M, all those places there. And we're not only sponsoring those races, but a lot of the technology and things that people are using every day, whether it be, brand new runners who are not quite ready to shell out, a couple $100 for GPS watches, or turning to things like Map My Run to go and track those races or track that training. A lot of those things, like, they're built in Austin, through our headquarters that are just half a mile down from our downtown Austin HQ as well. So the training center. So so we've been embedded in the Austin community for a long time. We've kind of been a little bit of a sleeper in terms of our footwear and stuff like that. James is going to probably cover a little bit about that. But we've been hitting run performance really hard in the last couple of years. We've been investing a ton of time and energy into kind of rebooting our efforts there and getting footwear that's going to help you, go and tackle races like CIM and Indy, and have really great performances there. So we're just really proud. I mean, for me, I'm incredibly proud to be a part of this brand and have that connection and those same vein of thinking that I had 5 years ago when I was part of the Rogue community in a more formal way.
Yeah, bringing James into the conversation, you guys are heavily involved in the running community through the Austin Marathon and are a gear partner for that, so we know it well. Under Armour's been in the shoe game for a long time, dating back to the days that Scotty and Darren were wearing that gear in the early days of Rogue Athletic Club. But give us an update on where Under Armour is with running shoes.
Yeah, I mean, I can definitely take that. So, I mean, we've really definitely come a long way from the beginning, and kind of really hitting our stride, back in 2014, 2015 with some of the earlier ones. But the last 2 years has really been the most amazing footwear that we feel really proud about, and just, the connection with the connectivity and all that cool stuff that Jeff Knight and his team are working on too. So we feel really proud of where it's coming, where it's going. And we definitely feel like an underdog in the race, and we definitely feel like we're putting our best foot forward for now. So it's come a long way.
Yeah, and you're going to be putting free shoes on people's feet as a part of our Front Door 5K series. I'm going to bring Brent into the conversation. The couple things we wanted to do with this series. One is have fun, 2, connect, and 3, give back. And so we're going to be doing all 3 of those things through this series while we're having to operate virtually. And so, Brent, give us an overview of what is the Front Door 5K series.
All right, well, I'll do my best. So we've created for you what we hope you agree is an exciting challenge to kind of accomplish 2 things. First, keep you motivated to train hard during a long summer where, at least to start, you may be doing some of that on your own. And then secondly, give you an opportunity to compete with your friends and your teammates along the way and compete as a team. And then I said 3 things Chris had already mentioned, give you an opportunity also really to make a positive impact on your local community during these, of course, challenging and difficult times. So that's the idea. The series is pretty simple. Basically, first, you got to register. So we've already created an event in Facebook, and we'll get that information out to you guys. I'm actually going to post the registration in the chat. Everyone needs to register. Registration is free for all of our current Rogue members. And anyone outside of the community, we'd love for you to join us too, and there's a small fee for that. You can register now through May 22nd. Secondly is you got to race. So we've got a series of 3 5Ks, and all you got to do is race all 3 of them during the race windows. So you got 1 in May, 1 in June, 1 in July. The great thing about it is the course is up to you. So pick wisely. If you want to race up Jester Boulevard, that's up to you, but I wouldn't recommend it. The next thing you got to do is input your results. So we've got a results link. All you got to do is go in there and input your results a week after the race window. And then lastly, just finish the whole series. And once you finish, we've got our our one and only Allison Maxis that has designed a really cool Boco custom hat that will serve as your finisher's prize. So when you complete all 3, that's what you get. And to Chris's point, we're going to have a lot of ways for you to, there's the hat. Look at Chris. There it is. We're going to have several ways for you to give back and for us to make a really big positive impact on our community. So, we've highlighted 5 different partners that we'd like to kind of highlight with this initiative. And we're going to donate 100% of the proceeds from this event to those 5 partners. We're also going to do some matching, which I think Chris can kind of take you through a little bit. And we're going to give you as a community an opportunity to put your money where your mouth is too, so we can really provide a huge impact to some of these local nonprofit partners.
A good overview. So the goal here is to finish, earn yourself this hat, and also earn for charity for several causes, some money to go to those good causes. We've also got prizes. We're going to talk a little bit more about giving back in just a second, but we've got other brand partners, and some of them are national. We've also got local partners that we won't talk about today, but we'll get you all that information as we announce more details. But I wanted to bring Hoka into the conversation. They're another one of our footwear partners. We've got Jonathan Harris joining. He was supposed to be Sam Knight. Some of you know Sam Knight from our community, our former retail manager in Austin, who now works for Hoka. He's having a baby right now. So while he was supposed to be in Jonathan's chair, he's occupied. So Jonathan's stepping in. How are you doing, Jonathan? Tell us a little bit about what Hoka's doing to help us with this series.
Yeah, thanks, Chris. So as you mentioned, Sam is not here physically, but he's with us in spirit. So he actually sent a little note for me to read to you guys first. Sam Knight sends his love and hopes you're all safe and well. He can't be here because he and his wife are having a baby girl today. Sam said he thinks the reason why his baby chose today is because she could hear him talking about how excited he was for the Rogue Nation call, and she got excited too. He says to remember, it takes a village and it's time to fly.
Love that. Love that. What are you guys doing? What's the latest on Hoka footwear?
So we've got some cool things in the works that are coming down the pipeline, but at Hoka, we've got just a full gamut to kind of cover everything that you need. So as Ruth alluded to a little earlier, for someone who's doing their first 5K or someone who's trying to complete their full marathon, all the way to someone who's trying to get a PR, or for someone who's trying to hit a BQ, a Boston qualifier. We've got a little bit of everything going on right now. So probably our most notable shoe here is the Clifton. And so that is probably one of our signature shoes when it comes to just the cushioning aspect of it. For most people, it's a daily trainer. It covers kind of your daily miles, your meat and potatoes of your training. Where if you're looking to kind of pick up the tempo a little bit, we go with something like the Elevon 2, where this one's going to have a little bit of a softer heel. And then as you transition to the forefoot, it's going to be a little bit firmer to give you that propulsion and basically just kind of spring you forward through that transition heel to toe phase. And then lastly, we've got a cool product for someone who is trying to go for a PR, or if they're trying to hit that speed time, we've got the Carbon X. And so this is talking to kind of the foundations of Hoka, innovation, one thing that we kind of pride ourselves in. And so this actually features a carbon fiber plate. So it's all encompassing. So like I said, it includes everything if you're trying to get those PRs. So
Trainees are running fast, also giving away free shoes. And by the way, we'll be giving away prizes not just for running fast, but also for participating, for most improved. We're going to be doing some route challenges, lots of fun raffles as well along the way. So there'll be lots of different ways to compete and win. We're also going to be doing team participation challenges. So those teams that have the most, that finish the series will get some fun team opportunities to go have hopefully a happy hour when we can all get back together. So there's lots of ways to participate. Let's talk about giving back. And for part of this conversation, I've got Cammie Hawkins joining, who is the CEO of Marathon Kids, one of our nonprofit partners here. But we're going to be working with 5, as Brent said, 3 food banks, 1 from each of our physical locations, Central Texas Food Bank. We've got North Texas Food Bank, as well as the Food Bank of New York City, that we'll be partnering with to contribute funds to those 3 causes to help those in need. We're also going to be partnering with the nonprofit called Direct Relief. that helps support frontline healthcare workers during this time. And obviously they're in need of lots of things, including PPE, personal protective equipment. So we'll be supporting that nonprofit, which is a national nonprofit. And then we've got this Austin-based, but they have locations, or at least they have members, kid members in Dallas and New York, as well as Austin, even though they're founded here. Cammie, tell us a little bit about what you guys have been up to with Marathon Kids during this time.
Thanks, Chris. Hi, everybody. I appreciate you guys having me on, and thank you so much for including us in this effort and this event. I know it's going to be amazing. So at Marathon Kids, when the pandemic kind of hit, we were right at the end of our run season. Our kids, for those of you that don't know, try to complete the equivalent of 4 marathons over the course of a school year. And so as you can imagine, by the 1st of March, they were into that 4th marathon and really stretching for the finish line to get that done. And so when schools started to shut down and we had to go to a remote learning environment, we quickly pivoted to try to reach out to our parents through our coaches to make sure that our kids had everything that they needed so that they could finish that goal.
Yeah, and they've been doing it. Lots of families active out there, which is cool. But we'll be contributing to you guys. Part of that will come with a match from the Austin Runners Club. And so we'll be getting more details about the matching opportunities that are available through this, so we can multiply the funds that not only you donate, but also we donate. And not only will you earn a hat when you finish, but you'll also earn a Rogue matching contribution to those 5 charities. And we'll get the details on exactly the level of that contribution over time. But an exciting way to not only challenge yourself, have fun, as I said, but also give back to the community. Now I want to bring in one of our other brand partners, UFOS. We've got Scotty Mack and Darren Brown, two old school rogues on the call, both now with UFOS. You guys are helping us with some prizes as well. And I know you guys have been giving UFOS to frontline workers and healthcare staff and so forth. So talk a little bit about what UFOS has been up to.
Yeah, thanks, Chris. So I'll jump in really quick and talk about our Give Back efforts recently, because we've actually got something cool going on right now that I think everybody could participate in and help kind of pay it forward in their community. So we started off by donating footwear to hospitals nationwide, where we had tech reps ingrained in the communities who probably run, work, play right alongside you guys. We've since donated over 3,500 pairs to about 30 hospitals around the country. But we expanded that because one of our core brand elements at UFOS is to be inclusive and to really think about how we can bring everybody into the fold. And so we wanted to expand it to all essential frontline workers, whether that's a grocery store worker, a delivery driver, the people, bringing you your packages, delivering your groceries, police, fire, rescue, whoever that might be. So we've got a We Support You campaign going on right now, where anybody can literally go on and nominate an essential worker to be able to receive a free pair of UFOS. And we're giving away 250 pairs every week for the next 4 weeks to essential frontline workers, just so we can show them that we're here supporting them, both as a brand and as your fellow community member. And a lot of that stems out of a lot of the stuff that, Ruth talked about earlier. I mean, it's amazing to me. One of the best things that's come out of this conversation is I think I just signed Scotty and I up to the post-race party at Indy Monumental in the comments while we were going through this. So Scotty,
perfect.
We're buying plane tickets to go celebrate with everybody after they run their BQs and personal tests, everything else.
You can ask Jed. He's seen me post-race party. And
No, but I mean, really, going back to a couple of things that we touched on at the beginning of this, the giving back, like the free shoes that'll go out with these programs, all of that is great. But I really think that we'd be remiss to skip over the number one thing that comes out of Rogue, which is community and family. This is young Darren and Scotty from over a decade ago at the original Rogue, wearing Rogue beanies that were knitted for us by one of our athletes. Scotty being a pure distance guy coming out of University of Arkansas, myself being a miler coming out of University of Texas. We didn't like each other, right? Scotty performed an lip sing and dance at my wedding because of what was built through the Rogue programs, right? Iron sharpens iron. We worked together day in and day out. It wasn't always comfortable, but we knew we were making each other better. And I can't encourage enough lean on each other, you'll make each other better, you'll succeed together. And the celebrations, not just after the races, but after any training run, are the things you live for, right? And it's going to be one of the best times of your life. So embrace that.
For sure. The post-race parties, the tailgates like we have in Dallas. I wanted to say that UFOs have been my shoe of choice during shelter in place, because that's what I'm wearing around the house these days. And you guys will be contributing UFOs to our prizes. Thanks to you, Darren, Scotty, and Natalie, who's also on, who's our local tech rep. And you guys have been awesome, not only as long-term partners, but also in giving back to the community during this time. Lastly, as we transition to end out this conversation, I want to bring our special guest to the conversation. Kara Goucher slid in, I think, about 15 minutes ago. How are you doing today, Kara?
I'm doing good, Chris. How are you guys doing?
We're good. Thank you so much for joining on a Friday afternoon there from Boulder. Want to just check in, first of all, how are things going? I know you're playing a lot of roles right now. Probably primo of that is homeschool teaching your son, Colt. How has that been going?
It's been good. I'm looking forward to a break for it to be over, but it's been good. You know, like we've had a lot of one-on-one time together, which actually has brought us closer together. But, you know, I'm not a teacher, so I'm looking forward for that to be done.
I'm with you on that. You and I were commiserating over that. I almost quit homeschool teaching yesterday, but
Yeah.
we got back on the horse today. Also would love to talk a little bit about your training. The last race you did, big race, was the ultra that you raced last fall, your first ultra. And so talk about that, first of all. I don't know if I've heard a good recap. I got to see it firsthand, but how was that for you, that first ultra?
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't know if everyone knows, but we ran that entire thing together. You kind of decided to run it literally, I think, just days before with me. Like, when did you decide to do that with me?
It was probably Thursday before.
Yeah, so it was on a Saturday, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and you decided on Thursday to do it. And I was like, this guy's crazy. Like, I had actually been training for it, and you kind of just jumped into it, but you had plenty of fitness, and I really loved it. I had done a trail race in June. That was a miserable experience. And here, you know, when I wanted to walk, we just walked, and it was so much fun. And I think the only time I really was like, so you and I was the third woman for the 50K, and we had run the whole thing together. And when we had about 2.5 miles to go, I looked over my shoulder and thought I saw someone coming. And I was like, Chris, we got to go faster. And you were like, kill me now. And I don't remember what we dropped, but that was our fastest mile.
It was like a 650 the next mile, at mile 30 of that race.
Oh, yeah. And then I was like, oh, never mind. She's in a different race. So anyway, it was really fun, and the environment was awesome. And I was just really excited to accomplish something I wanted to accomplish for a while.
Yeah, a cool side story there, which I don't even think I've told, is after you said that to me, I'm sitting here in my head thinking, I'm not going to let Kara Goucher miss her podium spot, so I got to pick it up. And so I kind of pulled ahead and was letting you follow behind. And we got to the Golden Gate Bridge, and it was packed with tourists and people doing jogging and exercising, taking pictures. It was just crazy. It was like it suddenly became a full contact sport. And as we were running through and I was trying to clear the way, there was a guy who was jogging towards us, and he stopped, turned around, ran next to me. He's like, what's going on? I'm like, we're trying to get her third place in this race. And this guy then went ahead of me and started clearing the path. And so it was three of us running in sequence across the Golden Gate Bridge in what was a painful but really cool moment.
It was pretty funny because the whole time you were like, I think you're in third. And I was like, I don't care. But then when I smelled it, like I smelled the finish line, I was like, no, I'm getting third. We have to make this happen.
You cared in that moment, for sure. Yeah. So how has your training been during this time?
It's kind of been hit and miss. I've been running about 60 miles a week. And, you know, my goal for this year was to go to the Fifth Avenue mile and break 5 minutes in the mile. And I don't think that race is probably going to happen now. But really the goal for the year was to focus back on speed. And so it's hard right now because my day is really built around my son's needs. So when he's done with school, I think I'll be able to train a little bit more. But I am running about 60 miles a week. You and I try to do the same workout on Wednesday. So I'm doing strides Monday, a workout Wednesday, and a long run on Saturday. And so, you know, I'm getting it in, but I'm looking forward to being able to dedicate a little bit more time to it.
What happened to the rumors about the 50 miler that you were considering?
I still want to do a 50 miler. So originally I thought I would do the sub 5 this year and the 50 miler next year, but I don't know now what's going to happen because I don't think there aren't a ton of race opportunities. So I might just have to do them both next year. Who knows?
So how do you stay focused if, your race, the Fifth Avenue Mile, probably unlikely in a place like New York, you don't know what else is coming. How do you stay focused? How do you keep getting out there?
Honestly, right now running is really like this massive stress relief for me. It's keeping me sane. It's keeping me focused on the task ahead. And it's a really big release of some of the stress and unknown that we have. So getting out the door hasn't been hard. I think like a lot of your athletes, the why am I getting out the door and what am I doing it for? That's a little bit more challenging. But, at some point we're going to have races again and I'm going to want to do them. But right now it's really about keeping my routine and keeping my sanity. It's my quiet part of the day. It's the one time of the day where I'm alone. And it's changed a little bit because it's more about what my body needs mentally, more than trying to achieve something physically. But it's been really an important part of this time in my life.
I recall an Instagram post from a few weeks ago where you were giving a message to your middle school, 8th grade self, I think,
Yeah.
who was being interviewed by the media after qualifying for the state championship in Minnesota. And you just said you wanted to tell that little girl that to do her best and the best will be enough and she's enough. And so talk about the other challenges you've faced. This hasn't been easy for any of us. And I think, all of us have those moments where we just break a little bit during this time because of the uncertainty. So what has that been like for you?
Yeah, I think we've all been there. We've all had our days where it's really difficult and we're wondering if we're doing it right. You and I have commiserated again about the homeschooling. Are we setting our children up right? Am I doing enough around the home? Am I letting other responsibilities slip with my sponsors? So there are times where it has felt really overwhelming and I've really questioned if I'm doing a good job, but I do think that we're all kind of feeling that way, or we're all having moments. And really at the end of the day, all you can do is your best effort. And I have to sort of remind myself at times that I am doing the best job that I can do. And it may not be perfect, and none of us are perfect, and we're all just doing the best we can. And if that means my run gets cut short because I have to get back to school, or if that means I actually have a little extra time and I'm going to take it, that's all okay. And you just really, during this time, I feel like we all need to give ourselves some grace.
For sure. You are no stranger to challenges in your life. And I heard another coach of ours equate this situation as we're all trying to find proxies for how to deal with this situation, almost like having an injury, especially this spring where people were losing races. And that's not dissimilar to if suddenly you have an injury that takes you out and you lose this thing you've been shooting for all along. So if you think about that and think about moments in your career where maybe you weren't able to do what you wanted to do, how did you cope?
I've always tried to reframe things. So like when I was injured, I tried to reframe it as this gift of time that I wasn't expecting to have. So what am I going to do with this time? I'm going to go to the gym more and make my body stronger in other areas. I'm going to go visit my family that I normally can't see. I'm going to spend more time with my friends who aren't runners. And I think this is kind of a similar situation where we can kind of reframe it. Like this is an opportunity to try different workouts, to try running in different terrain, to maybe go back to speed work, maybe go out there and run that 3-hour long run you've always wondered if you could do. It's sort of like an opportunity, if we can just reframe it a little bit, to stretch ourselves and try different things and maybe things that we normally wouldn't do in our normal routines. So I think it could be good for a lot of people. I was on a call last night with, I run for Ultra, and we had an athlete call, and the sentiment sort of seemed to be, there was first really a lot of disappointment that races were canceled, but then people started to see that it actually gave them opportunity to try new things and to do things differently than they had done. So I think if we can all look at it from a slightly different way, it could be a blessing in disguise.
I also think about moments in your career like the one behind me. That's from the Olympic trials 2012. I was there watching when you qualified for the Olympics in London, racing the marathon there in Houston. You weren't running very well leading up into that race. And then suddenly you had to go make an Olympic team. and deal with that uncertainty in advance. So how have you dealt with uncertainty in your career?
Yeah, I mean, just using that as an example, I had a femoral stress fracture, and then I left my team that I had been with for 7 years. And so I think the first workout I had was 12 weeks to the day from the Olympic trials. It was my first time running back. And I was training with Shalane Flanagan, and she was doing a 20-mile run, and I made it 8 miles. And it was rough, but I just really stayed focused on every day. I couldn't look too far ahead because I couldn't control what would happen in 3 months, but I could control that every day I was doing the best I could do on that day, and that the next day there would be progress, and the next day there would be progress. And when I saw that progress, I started to get confidence. And I mean, that was actually the most nervous I've ever been for a race, because I wanted it so bad. And I was like, I haven't done the work these other women have done. But I really tried to focus on the here and now and let go of all the distraction of, have I done enough? Am I enough? What have they been doing? I really just tried to focus on me in the now.
One of the things I admire most about you is the passion you bring to running, and the fact that even though you've seen the darkest parts of our sport and all of the things that you've faced and talked about, even though you've seen those dark parts, you keep coming back, not just as an athlete or as somebody who is in the sport who's trying to give back publicly, but also as just someone who's going out there, out your front door every day, trying to do it too, just like the rest of us, who has good days and bad days, and days when you don't sleep and you skip your workout because you're going to get crushed if you do it anyway. And so how have you maintained that positivity? What does running bring to you that through all of those challenges, you still just love it?
I just loved running when I first ran as a child. I loved the feeling of my lungs about to explode. I loved that I had to learn how hard I could push and when I had to back off. I come from a very athletic family, and I loved that I didn't have to think of the way my ski pole was planting or my racket was in my hand, or did I lace my skates tight enough? Like, I could just run. And it really has been a sense of freedom in my life. And I was lucky enough to be talented at it and to be able to take it pretty far. But when I get stressed or it gets out of my way, I always come back to, why did I start? What kept me in it? What made me go back to that second day of practice in junior high? And it was that feeling, that freedom and connection to just myself. And so, yeah, I hope I'm 100 and going out and running every single morning in Dublin twice a week, just because.
I love it. Another thing you've experienced through this beautiful sport of ours is teamwork. So one of my favorite pictures of you and Shalane after the London Marathon in the Olympics there, you guys, I believe, were 10th and 11th, although we know probably deserved higher than that. We won't talk about that now. But
it's officially been changed to 9th and 10th.
Okay, nice. Yeah. Top 10. Love it. Yeah. So I remember watching that race, and I remember how hard you both worked and how tough the conditions were that day and how hot it was and how that course was so twisty and turny and like crazy brick sections. And it was just absolutely brutal. But seeing you guys with your arms around each other at the end, to me, symbolize what the Olympic spirit is all about. And that's what we try to bring to our road community, is that it's not just about us as individuals, it's about the team or your running buddy. And so talk about that part of it. What have you learned through the sport because of the others you've surrounded yourself with?
My best friends of my life I met through running. My closest friends are from high school. We ran together in high school. I've been so lucky to train with such amazing women. I trained with Amy Oder-Begley, whom we made an Olympic team together. I got to train with Shalane Flanagan, and I got to train with really powerful women, but that also looked out for each other. That day in London, Shalane and I didn't get what we wanted, but we got incredible memories. We led 13 miles of the Olympic marathon side by side. We finished super close together. I can't remember how far apart we were, but we were one place apart. And those are memories that, and a closeness that I have with these people that I could never get just from going to dinner with, right? Like, there's something about running that connects you and breaks walls down. And I just feel super lucky for I would never would have met you without running, and we become good friends. So I just am really thankful for running. And the times in my life where I've been down, it's the running community that's lifted me back up. And so I just think it's so important. And I think it's something really special that you guys have built at Rogue.
It is. It makes me emotional even thinking about it. So thank you for acknowledging that. Final words. What would you say to that athlete who might have a race in the fall, who doesn't know if that race is going to happen, but they're going to start their training anyway and see how it goes? What would you tell them?
I'd say that's awesome. You know what? All that training doesn't go away, right? Like we all have had times where we train and got injured. And so does that, or the race didn't go how we wanted. Does that mean that that training didn't count for anything? It still counts and it still matters. And try to be flexible with your thoughts, but you know, any training you do right now, it's only going to set you up for the future. And it's important that we still keep lacing up and going out there. But I would also say that if you're having a rough day, don't kill yourself. You know, there's so many factors in the world right now and so many stresses, and we need to give ourselves grace. But any quality work you do right now, it is going to be paid back, whether there's a race in the fall or not.
I love it. Thank you so much, Kara. I appreciate you as a friend and also for all that you do for the running community broadly. And thanks for the inspiring words. With that, Rogue Nation, I will start to wrap things up here. We've just got a few final notes as we end this fall kickoff. First of all, wanted to thank everybody who joined. Wave to our panelists. Thank you guys. It was certainly awesome to have you. And also thanks to everybody who jumped on. I think at one point we had over 300 people tuning in, and this will be available for rewatch on video, as well as I'm going to be putting it out via podcast. And so you'll be able to reconnect to it if you'd like to. A couple of things more practically though, because tomorrow training starts and your first long run is this weekend. We've got the Church of the Long Run on tap, which means that on Saturday or Sunday, you got to go get some work done. Just got an easy run for those half marathoners. Most of you are doing 3 to 5 miles. For most marathoners, you're doing 5 to 7 miles, but you'll want to check out those individual schedules on your member page and get the work done. As a part of that, we've got a raffle for this first weekend where after you get that run done, post a picture of yourself or of your run, tag Run Rogue Nation on Facebook or Instagram, and that will enter you into a raffle to win some fun prizes from the sponsors we've had on, as well as from others that are participating with us during this time. So again, get your run done, post a picture of it, tag Run Rogue Nation, and get that up on Facebook or Instagram, and you'll be entered into a raffle. You have between now and Monday evening to get that up, and then we'll be announcing everything on Friday via a fun announcement via social media. So check that out. Otherwise, you'll have more information coming to you. We've got a link that we'll be sharing that we're calling Rogue News that basically has all the ways you can participate. It's got not only sign-up links for those that aren't yet a part of Rogue and want to join, but it also has ways to go register for the Front Door 5K series and other information about the raffles and so forth. So you can go to that one page, which we'll be sharing on social media, to get all the information that we talked about today. And that's it. I will leave you with one final note, which is just a reminder that no matter what happens, we are stronger together. And if we do this work together, whether it's perfect or not, then yeah, we'll probably get faster along the way. But more important than that, we'll become better humans, just like our mission statement implies. And that's truly what it's all about. That's what I get up to run for. And that's what I get up to coach for. And that's why I stand in front of all of you now. So that's it, y'all. Have a great Friday. Get your runs in. I love you, Rogue Nation. We will see you soon.